You remember Mr. Peanut, right? The monocle-wearing, cane-swinging, top-hat rockin' nut who's been around longer than most of our grandparents. For over 100 years, this guy stood for class, taste, and a salty snack you could rely on. But something's changed. Big time. Not too long ago, Mr. Peanut died. No, seriously, he actually died. In a Super Bowl commercial. And that's just the start of the madness. What followed was one of the strangest marketing roller coasters in modern history. Baby Nut. Peanut Jr. turning 21. And then, somehow, this Peanut mascot shows up in a dystopian Netflix movie.
Stay calm, stay calm. Scabs are still machines, they're rational. Open those damn doors!
Leading a robot rebellion voiced by Woody Harrelson. This isn't just weird, it's straight-up brand identity crisis. What once felt like an American icon now feels like a joke. A sad one. Mr. Peanut didn't just lose his charm, he lost his mind, or rather, the marketers behind him did. So what the hell happened? How did one of the most beloved mascots in history go from high society to internet cringe? And is there any way back for him? Strap in. Because this is the story of how Mr. Peanut went from classy to corny, from timeless to try-hard. And trust me, what's coming up is even stranger than it sounds. Long before Baby Nut or robot rebellions, there was just a peanut, drawn by a 14-year-old kid named Antonio Gentile back in 1916. Planters ran a contest looking for a mascot, and Antonio's simple sketch of a smiling peanut won. The company later added a top hat, monocle, and cane. And just like that, Mr. Peanut was born. For decades, Mr. Peanut stood tall, figuratively and literally, as a symbol of class and reliability. While other snack mascots leaned into goofy antics or kid-friendly cartoons, Mr. Peanut was always the cool one. He didn't have to yell or do backflips. He was the confident gentleman at the snack table, quietly judging your choice of off-brand trail mix. Throughout the 20th century, he was featured in print ads, TV commercials, and even parades. He didn't change much. He didn't need to. That's what made him iconic. He was timeless. While mascots like Chester Cheetah and the Kool-Aid Man screamed for attention, Mr. Peanut simply tipped his hat and smiled. And people loved him for it. The brand he represented, Planters, became a staple in American households. Those blue canisters were everywhere. And thanks to Mr. Peanut, they stood out. He wasn't just selling peanuts. He was selling a feeling. Classy, dependable, and slightly old school in a good way. But then the 21st century happened. Social media exploded, trends moved at the speed of memes, and brands started freaking out about how to stay relevant. Suddenly, that quiet confidence started looking old, outdated, maybe even boring. So what do you do when your mascot's over 100 years old? If you're Planters, you kill him off. And that's where things started to get weird, like really weird. What happened next? Well, let's just say Mr. Peanut's funeral was the beginning of the end. In January 2020, Planters made a shocking announcement. Mr. Peanut was dead. Yep, they killed him off. In a pre-Super Bowl teaser ad, we see Mr. Peanut driving the iconic Nutmobile with actors Wesley Snipes and Matt Walsh. They swerve off a cliff, the Nutmobile crashes, and Mr. Peanut, in a bizarre act of heroism, lets go of a branch to save his friends, plummeting to his supposed death in a fiery explosion. It was meant to be funny. Absurd, memorable, maybe even emotional. The internet reacted instantly. Some people were confused, some were amused. A few were genuinely sad. But many others were just weirded out. Like, why? But here's where it gets worse. Just days after that teaser dropped, Kobe Bryant died in a tragic helicopter crash. Suddenly, Mr. Peanut's death wasn't just a silly commercial stunt. It felt wildly inappropriate. People weren't in the mood to joke about death, and Planters pulled back on its campaign out of sensitivity. They paused the promotion, but the Super Bowl was already booked. When the big game aired, Mr. Peanut's funeral became the centerpiece of Planters' Super Bowl spot. There were eulogies, mournful animals, a crying Kool-Aid Man, and then, out of nowhere, a baby peanut sprouted from the soil. Baby Nut was born. That's right, Mr. Peanut died so he could be reborn, as a baby. To put it mildly, people weren't buying it. The stunt came off as tone-deaf, trying too hard, and out of touch with the audience. Critics slammed it as exploitative. Fans of the original Mr. Peanut felt betrayed, and marketing experts questioned why a legacy brand would throw away decades of goodwill for a quick viral moment. But the worst part? It didn't feel like it came from a place of creativity or even boldness. It felt like a corporate boardroom trying desperately to meme, to chase trends, to be part of the conversation without understanding what that conversation even is. Instead of evolving Mr. Peanut, they deleted him and tried to replace him with something trendier, cuter, and supposedly more internet-friendly. But Baby Nut wasn't about to become the next Baby Yoda. Not even close. In fact, things were about to get even more embarrassing. Let's be real. Planters didn't just kill off Mr. Peanut for drama. They had a plan. A very specific, very internet-driven plan. Enter Baby Nut. Just moments after Mr. Peanut's funeral aired during the Super Bowl, viewers were introduced to his replacement, an adorable, wide-eyed peanut with a high-pitched giggle. He sprouted from the dirt right where Mr. Peanut died, and with that, Baby Nut was born. Sound familiar? That's because Planters was clearly trying to ride the coattails of pop culture's favorite infant, Baby Yoda from The Mandalorian. The idea was obvious. Tiny versions of iconic characters were trending hard. If it worked for Star Wars, why not Peanuts? But here's the problem. Baby Nut didn't feel like a naturally lovable creation. He felt forced. He looked like a minion had wandered into a peanut shell, and instead of winning people over with charm, he quickly became the internet's punching bag. The Twitter account that represented Baby Nut immediately tried to go viral with Gen Z-style posts and memes, but it backfired. Badly. Critics called it cringe, a boomer brand trying to go viral, and corporate meme desperation at its worst. Even the New York Times ran an article questioning why Planters thought Baby Nut was a good idea. And just when it seemed like it couldn't get worse, Twitter revealed that some of the early Baby Nut memes weren't even real. Planters had used brand-created accounts posing as fans to spread memes and fake reactions. The whole thing was staged. People weren't just annoyed, they felt manipulated. What should have been a clever rebirth became a symbol of marketing gone wrong. Baby Nut wasn't endearing. He was a reminder of how out-of-touch brands can be when they chase trends without understanding the culture behind them. In a rush to stay relevant, Planters had taken a mascot with over 100 years of goodwill and traded him in for a shallow meme experiment. But the backlash didn't stop them. In fact, they doubled down, because just a few months later, Baby Nut wasn't a baby anymore. So imagine this. Baby Nut has barely existed for 6 months. People are still trying to figure out what he even is. And then, without warning, Planters hits fast forward on his life, hard. In August 2020, out of nowhere, Baby Nut celebrated his 21st birthday. Yup. Suddenly, he wasn't a baby anymore. He was Peanut Jr., legal drinking age, posting beer selfies, and trying to be your Twitter buddy. No storyline, no explanation. One minute he's a toddler, the next he's cracking open a cold one. This move wasn't just weird, it was marketing whiplash. Planters tried to spin it as a coming-of-age rebrand. But instead of finding a new groove, they created a version of Mr. Peanut that was completely unrecognizable. Peanut Jr. wasn't classy like the original. He wasn't cute like Baby Nut. He was just confusing. He started tweeting like a millennial who just discovered social media. Awkward jokes, forced memes, hashtags that made you cringe so hard you could feel it in your spine. To make it worse, the brand started pushing this new Peanut Jr. as if he had history with fans, like he was part of some long-running character arc. But there was no build-up, no real story, just a rapid evolution shoved down people's throats in a desperate attempt to keep the bit going. The internet wasn't having it. Critics said it best. Mr. Peanut didn't evolve, he glitched. It was like watching a mascot go through an identity crisis in real time. He had no roots, no clear purpose. Every version of him since his death felt like a cheap disguise trying to tap into whatever was trending that week. And by trying to appeal to everyone, he ended up connecting with no one. What used to be a reliable, recognizable figure had turned into a chaotic, shape-shifting brand puppet. And just when fans thought they'd seen it all, Mr. Peanut's story took an even stranger detour. Because somehow, he ended up in a post-apocalyptic movie on Netflix. Just when everyone thought Mr. Peanut's evolution couldn't possibly get more ridiculous, 2024 happened. And suddenly, Mr. Peanut showed up in The Electric State, a big-budget sci-fi film on Netflix. Directed by the Russo brothers, the same powerhouse duo behind Avengers Endgame, the movie featured a worn-down post-apocalyptic landscape, robots, survival themes, and somehow Mr. Peanut. Not just a cameo, not a blink-and-you'll-miss-it joke. Mr. Peanut had a full-blown role as a battle-scarred revolutionary robot. And if that wasn't surreal enough, he was voiced by none other than Woody Harrelson. Yes, the Oscar-nominated actor gave voice to a robotic peanut freedom fighter in a dystopian future. If you're thinking, what the hell? You're not alone. In the film, Mr. Peanut is no longer just a snack mascot. He's a war-weary leader of a ragtag resistance. His top hat is dented, his monocle cracked, his voice gruff and gritty. It's like someone took Terminator, Mad Max, and a can of Planters and threw them in a blender. Audiences were stunned. Many had to pause and rewind just to make sure they saw what they thought they saw. Twitter exploded with reactions. Is that seriously Mr. Peanut? Why is he in a science fiction movie? Did I take mushrooms or is this real? It was very real. And it wasn't some ironic parody or fan-made insert. Planters paid for this product placement. They pitched the idea to the Russo brothers, who thought it would be unexpected and iconic. Well, they weren't wrong about the unexpected part. The idea, according to Planters' press releases, was to reinvent Mr. Peanut once again.
Why are you dressed like it's 5 recessions ago?
Mr. Peanut! Mr. Peanut!
Mr. Peanut, what do you eat at parties? People?
Not as a baby or an awkward 20-something, but as a symbol of resilience in a broken world. The company framed it as a bold move to show their mascot could adapt to new storytelling formats and stay culturally relevant. But the result didn't land how they hoped. Instead of feeling edgy or deep, it felt out of place, like a meme turned into a marketing strategy. Critics called it one of the weirdest product placements of the decade. Viewers joked that Mr. Peanut was having a full-blown identity crisis, now bouncing from corporate boardrooms to battlefields. And once again, fans of the original Mr. Peanut were left shaking their heads. This wasn't the charming, classy figure they grew up with. This was a shell of his former self, literally and figuratively used as a branding stunt to hijack a film's tone. At this point, the question wasn't, what's next for Mr. Peanut? It was, what is he even supposed to be anymore? Instead of revitalizing the character, the Electric State cameo only deepened the confusion. Mr. Peanut was now a symbol of what happens when a brand abandons its roots in pursuit of internet moments. But if this bizarre rebranding shocked you, wait till you see how the public reacted. By now, Mr. Peanut had become something of a mascot chameleon, constantly changing form, voice, and personality. But with each transformation, something was getting lost. That something was trust. People weren't just confused by what Mr. Peanut had become, they were annoyed. The internet started to mock him relentlessly. Comment sections filled with snarky takes like, "Who asked for this?" and "Bring back the classy peanut." It wasn't just fun and games anymore. Fans of the original character felt betrayed. Everyone else was just embarrassed on his behalf. The tipping point? Block Mr. Peanut. That hashtag trended on Twitter shortly after the Peanut Jr. phase began. It wasn't ironic. It was a full-on protest. Users were blocking Mr. Peanut's official account en masse, tweeting screenshots to show solidarity. Even verified accounts jumped in, roasting the brand for trying too hard to be hip while missing the mark completely. What began as lighthearted dislike evolved into a clear message: stop. Marketing experts began weighing in, calling Planters' strategy tone-deaf and a masterclass in overdoing it. One viral article summed it up perfectly. They tried to make Mr. Peanut go viral and ended up turning him into a joke, and not the funny kind. And let's not forget the failed attempts to spin everything into merch. Baby Nut plushies were produced but didn't sell well. Peanut Jr. beer glasses? No one cared. After the cameo in The Electric State, Planters released a line of Battle Peanut gear, which unsurprisingly went nowhere. Fans weren't interested in a robot peanut resistance leader. They just wanted the original guy back. The bigger problem was brand confusion. Mr. Peanut no longer represented a consistent message. One day he was cute, the next, edgy, then philosophical, then dead, then alive, then a meme. Consumers didn't know what he stood for, and that's marketing poison. Brand mascots are supposed to be anchors. They're meant to symbolize stability and familiarity, especially for legacy companies like Planters. When you mess with that too much, you lose more than just followers. You lose emotional connection. Instead of refreshing their image, Planters had dismantled it. They had broken the one golden rule of branding: stay authentic. Sure, brands evolve. Look at the Michelin Man or the transformation of Ronald McDonald over the years. But those shifts were gradual, strategic, and most importantly, they respected the core of the character. Mr. Peanut? He got tossed into a blender and served up as meme soup, and consumers weren't sipping. The damage was done. A mascot who once embodied elegance and reliability now stood as a warning sign of what happens when a company chases clout instead of culture. But before we close the book on Mr. Peanut, let's take a final look at what we've learned from this peanut-shaped PR disaster. There was a time when Mr. Peanut stood tall, literally and figuratively, as one of the most recognizable and beloved brand mascots in America. He didn't need flashy gimmicks or viral stunts. He had class, a top hat, a monocle, and the quiet confidence of a century-old icon. But in trying to stay relevant, Planters forgot what made Mr. Peanut matter in the first place. They didn't just refresh him, they erased him. And what they gave us in return was a parade of awkward reboots. Baby Nut, Peanut Jr., BattleBot Peanut. Each one more disconnected from the brand's core than the last. None of it felt genuine. It felt like watching a legacy brand have an identity crisis in real time. Instead of evolving with their audience, they pandered to whatever was trending. And the result? A mascot no one could relate to anymore. Consumers weren't sure whether to laugh, cringe, or look away. Mr. Peanut had become a symbol, not of snacks or tradition, but of marketing gone off the rails. And that's the real tragedy here. Because when a brand loses its voice, it loses its audience. And when a mascot becomes a meme instead of a message, you don't build loyalty, you build mockery. Still, there's a lesson in all of this. It's not that mascots can't evolve, they should. But it has to be rooted in authenticity, not desperation. Characters like Tony the Tiger or the Geico Gecko have changed over the years, but they've stayed true to who they are. Mr. Peanut didn't evolve. He mutated. Maybe one day, Planters will figure out a way to bring him back, the real him. Not the meme, not the robot, but the charming old-school figure who quietly stood at the center of American snack culture for generations. Until then, we're left with a peanut-shaped cautionary tale. If you thought Mr. Peanut was just a mascot, think again. He became a reminder of how quickly brands can lose their way when they stop listening to their audience. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more weird, wild stories from the world of marketing and pop culture, smash that like button, drop a comment, and hit subscribe. We've got plenty more where this came from.